The Wishlist series is moving into uncharted territory this week. It's time to start talking about some Legends material. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. I am Grand Moff Tony. Now, most of you probably know I am a canon baby. I like new Star Wars canon more than I like the original expanded universe stuff. I grew up with a lot of that stuff, and I read a lot of it, and with the exception of stuff like the Thrawn trilogy, Dark Empire, that kind of thing, none of it really landed for me. So when the reset came along, and I got to start all over again with the Star Wars story, I've actually found I enjoy a lot of the new stuff a lot more than I enjoyed the old stuff. At the same time, I'm not one of these people that's just like, the EU isn't canon anymore, get over it. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there who really grew up with this stuff. Like, these books have been coming out for decades. And if that's still your version of Star Wars, then more power to you. I'm also a big advocate of movie remakes, and one of my biggest arguments is we're not replacing the original movie. You can still go and watch the original movie if you like. This is just a different version, and I feel very similarly about the Star Wars story. This is just a different version of events that never actually happened. With that being said, let's talk about the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series. Now, this came out between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and for a very, very long time, this was the Clone Wars. This is what happened in that 3-year time period. 2 very, very short volumes of over-the-top animated destruction. Now, I do have a video coming out soon where I'm planning to properly compare and contrast the 2 different versions of the Clone Wars, so I won't dwell on it too much here. For me, my issue has always been it's a lot of style over substance. There isn't a lot of story going on. There's just kind of 2 great big faceless armies being smashed against one another with little rhyme or reason as to why they're doing it. But with all of that said, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series has got some representation in the Black Series. They did a small mini beat, couple of figures in the very, very stylized imagery of that series. Obviously the figures themselves were still realistic in the same sort of vein as the rest of the line is. The colours are all way more saturated, and there are some design choices like giving Mace Windu his 2003 Clone Wars design rather than his 2008 Clone Wars design. So if it's happened once before, logically, it could happen again. So that's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to you about my top 5 picks for characters from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series that I would like to see come to the Black Series. We're going to be following the same rules as we always do. No HasLabs, no vehicles, with maybe one exception, but predominantly we're just talking about single pack release figures and deluxe figures. And we're doing things a little bit differently this time because the honorable mentions, I've decided I want to talk about some characters that technically we have in the Black Series already, but I would like to see them get a Tartakovsky upgrade, if you like. I'd like to see them get a re-release in the Tartakovsky design. And then we have 5 picks for the main list that we just straight don't have in the line. With that in mind, let's get into some honourable mentions. Coming up first is Asajj Ventress. Now, even though they did my girl really dirty in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, I would still love to get this design of the character on my shelf, because this is how we were introduced to her. This is where we first saw Ventress. And really, like the rest of my honourable mentions, this is just a case of taking an existing brilliant figure and just giving it a new coat of paint, taking away the purple, taking away the gold, kind of stripping it down to just the bare bones black and whites and greys that you see in the series. This is one of those instances where a re-release would just be all we need. It's just a re-release with an updated colour scheme. It's an easy pick. My second honourable mention goes to Anakin Skywalker, and I have 2 suggestions for Anakin. I'd like to get his Clone Commander Anakin look from Volume 2, where he kind of sheds that old Attack of the Clones look, and he's got a design very similar to Mace Windu's, where it's Jedi robes with a bit of armour over the top. I think that looks really cool. I also really like his hair in the second volume. Maybe part of the reason why I spent a chunk of my life with hair like that too. But failing that, I'd like to get a shirtless, tattooed up ceremony Anakin. I think this would be cool. It's one of the more interesting parts of the series. This was the way that this series explored both his Jedi trial and his role as the Chosen One, while also foreshadowing where that path was going to lead him. It's one of the better parts of the series. I would like to get an action figure of it. So either version of Anakin Skywalker I would be very, very happy with. And my final honourable mention is kind of a cheat, because while we do have this character in the line, we don't have this version of this character in the line. I'm talking about Chancellor Palpatine. Now, he has a very, very limited role in this series. He is also wearing robes that I would very much like to get onto an action figure. He's got the big puffy shoulder look, and then he's also got his more sort of sleek, dark blue robes that he's got at the start of Revenge of the Sith. Either version of Palpatine, I would go for it. Those are the honorable mentions. Let's get into the list itself.
I agree. But who to send?
Coming in at number 5 is Shaak Ti. Now, when I was going through my notes from the original Wishlist series, I cannot believe that we haven't talked about Shaak Ti yet. I'm surprised she didn't come up in the Clone Wars top 10. I'm surprised she didn't come up in any of the other top 5s that we've talked about in this series, because Shaak Ti is a great character, and she really gets the spotlight put on her in Volume 2 of the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series. She is basically an action hero in this series. Like, she goes toe-to-toe with legions of droids, toe-to-toe with General Grievous twice, I believe, to say nothing of also going up against an unimaginable sea of Magna Guards. I mean, that's just cool. She's a cool character. This is one of those characters where the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series did a really, really good job of highlighting them. She's always been a background character. Her death has been, like, filmed and cut over and over again. I believe the canon version of her death is still Anakin kills her in the temple, but we haven't seen it. It's not in a film, it's not in a TV series, it's in a weird kind of vision that Yoda has in the Clone Wars, but this series really brings Shaak Ti into the forefront, and that's why I think I may have been subconsciously saving her for this list, because this is probably the best Shaak Ti material you're going to find. If we're talking about accessories, it's a Jedi, so you know I want a soft goods robe, I want her lightsaber, and for this one I would like to get a Magna Guard Electro staff. You think those droids are good with those staffs? Give them to a Jedi for 5 minutes and you will not regret it. Shaak Ti is an easy pick for number 5.
I don't think so.
At number 4 is a fan favourite character, Shaggy. Now, this guy always makes me smile. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the first volume of the Tartakovsky series, but this guy is absolutely a highlight, because you just sit here thinking, wow, they really do just let anyone become a Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars, don't they? This guy is terrified. What is a Jedi's one responsibility? It's overcoming fear, and Shaggy is just petrified. It goes a long way to building up General Grievous's introduction. It goes a long way to really demonstrating how out of their depth the Jedi are. But you know, all of these arty-farty reasons aren't the reason why I want to get him in the line. I want to get him in the line because it's funny. I want to get him in the line because it's funny that Shaggy is a Jedi. I honestly would like to get any of these Jedi into the line, but if I'm gonna have to pick one, I'm gonna pick Shaggy, because he's just a funny character, and I'd like to get him on my shelf. And you know what? If you want to really do me a favor here, I would like to get an alternate head where he's just wailing at the top of his lungs. Just that last final death scream before he goes charging into oblivion. Give me that, and I will be very, very happy indeed. Shaggy comes in at number 4.
No!
At number 3 is another Jedi, because that's what this series does really well. It's Roran Karab, the Ithorian Jedi sent to protect Chancellor Palpatine from General Grievous, and for the most part, does a pretty good job, all things considered. Now, I put this guy in 3rd because he feels like one of the most likely Tartakovsky characters that we're gonna get, because we just got the Ithorian into the line with Doc Ondar and then Momar Nadon slightly after that. The mold exists. Like, it's in the line already. We could easily slap a Jedi overlay on top of that, and you've got a very, very unique looking Jedi. And I feel like that's what the people who like to get lots and lots of Jedi in this line, that's what they like. They like a diverse cast of characters. Roran really was one of those instances where I'm watching the series and he does that thing where he does that great big breath of like air and like forces Grievous back, and I'd like, I didn't know they could do that. Like, that's really cool. Why isn't that in more of the series? Hell, why isn't that in more of Star Wars content as it is? Ithorians, they're cool. I love it. I feel like a lot of the Tartakovsky releases were very, very simple in terms of what they came with, so just a figure and a lightsaber, I'm good for it, to be honest with you. They always do a great job with aliens, so this would be no exception to that. I would wholeheartedly go out and get this guy, because I, too, would like a diverse cast of Jedi on my shelf. And they do not get much more diverse than this guy, so Roran Karab comes in at number 3. At number 2, we've talked about Roron, we need to talk about Foul Modama. Now, this is a logical inclusion. If we're going to talk about Roron as well, you gotta get the Tal in there. This is one of the more interesting Jedi designs that I've ever seen in any kind of Star Wars. He's a great big four-eyed furry yeti of a character, and he just looks cool. I would love to get him on my shelf. I put him slightly higher up on the list because, like I said, Roron feels pretty self-explanatory. This would be a new figure, entirely new mold, entirely new design, and bringing an entirely new species into the Black Series, which could then be used to bring in other Tals, like some of the ones from the 2008 Clone Wars, perhaps the one from the Cantina. I really am trying in this series to make choices that open up a lot of options for what they can do with it afterwards. The slight bummer on this one would be that I feel like because of his size, he would have to be a deluxe figure. I mean, he's straight up cradling Chancellor Palpatine during that final battle. Like, he's holding him like a little baby. This guy is pretty massive. But likewise, this would open up the potential for more larger Jedi, like, for instance, Pong Krell or Jaro Tapal, some of these larger Jedi characters. And of course, it's an alien sculpt, and they always do a great job with aliens. So yeah, Foul Modama comes in at number 2.
Yes, brilliant job.
But the number 1 character from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series that I would like to see come to this line, you really should have known who it was from the get-go, it's Dirge. Dirge is far and away the best part of Volume 1, like, hands down. Even with that incredible duel between Anakin and Ventress, it's Dirge. Dirge is just incredible. Now, we talked about the Jedi species when we were talking about the Jedi Survivor Wishlist with Ravis. And honestly, a lot of what I had to say about Ravis starts with Dirge. Dirge is the origin of why I want to get this species into the Black Series. Just a hulking, armored bounty hunter. I just love it. I think he's fantastic. I don't usually do this in my wish lists, but I feel like they could get a really great convention exclusive out of this guy. If they make him an exclusive and maybe put him in the box with his speeder bike, I would pre-order that in a heartbeat, and I would fight my way to that convention to get it. Absolutely. But the bike itself, I would love to get in the line. He's got such a cool design on his, that skull in the front. But wait, there's more! Because of course there's more. If I'm going out of my way to say this is going to be a convention exclusive, I want it to be the best exclusive they've ever done. And that means I want some pink and purple tentacles in my box. I want to have limbs that come off and you can replace with hulking, sopping wet tentacles. I'm having a genius moment. What if the convention exclusive is the hulking, tentacly version of the figure, and that figure is 100% compatible with a mainline deluxe release of Dirge that comes with his bike? Like, what if you've got the option of displaying, you know, one or the other, or you can pop the arms off from the regular release and put the tentacly arms on from the convention exclusive? Oh, this is filling my head with all kinds of opportunities. That would be incredible, like a fully customizable Black Series figure. Like 2 Black Series figures that can go together to create a really, really good one. Feels like I'm straying into Build-A-Figure territory here. No Build-A-Figures. No. I don't know, maybe the one's a convention exclusive, the other isn't, or maybe the convention exclusive is the mainline figure with some extra body bits in it, but I feel like it's gotta come with it. We've gotta have tentacle options, because this guy is the origin of the species, and he's gotta have this incredibly cool option, at least. Failing that, if you want to just slap every weapon in the box that he whips out while he's fighting Obi-Wan, then I will go for it. Give him his jetpack, his blasters, his great big mace on a chain, those little shields that pop up on his arms, just all of them. Put them all in the box. Maybe I can overlook the tentacle thing, but I do really think the tentacle thing's a good idea. And I think the bike's a good idea too. Putting my foot down on the bike. He has to have the bike. He's the coolest character in the entire series. Of course he's my number 1 pick. Dirge is the number 1 character from the 2003 Clone Wars that I would like to see come to the Black Series. So there you have it. Those were 5 characters from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series that I would like to see come to this line. We've finally started straying into Legends content. I hope that pleases the Legends fans out there. I know you're out there. And even though this stuff isn't for me, even though I didn't buy any of the Tartakovsky figures when they came out because it's not my Clone Wars. My Clone Wars is the 2008 Clone Wars. I know that there are tons of people out there who still love this version. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to respect the fact that you like it. And if you like it, you deserve to have Black Series figures of it, even if I'm not going to go out and buy them. So I hope this wish list and my commentary surrounding it has at least been respectful of the fact that I know that there are a lot of people out there who love this series, and I know there are some people out there who even prefer it to the 2008. And if that's your game, then more power to you. It's Star Wars, man. We're allowed to enjoy whatever we want to enjoy. I'm sure some of the stuff that I like from this franchise is a real head-scratcher. With all that said, I would love to hear from you guys on this one, so if you have characters from the Tartakovsky series, or troopers from the Tartakovsky series that you would like to see come to the line, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I don't usually put army builders on these lists, and that's probably why I ended up with a list of Jedi and Dirge. But yeah, special clones, special battle droids, I'd love to hear all about it. Stick it down in the comments, I'll get back to each and every one of you. Coming up on the channel, the Bad Batch is ending next week, which is incredible to me. I cannot believe that the series is ending, and it's really, really hard for me to think about because I love the show, I love the characters, I am really gonna miss them. And with that happening, we are of course planning to do a season review of Bad Batch Season 3. But being as those podcast style videos take a little bit longer to work on, a little bit longer to edit, they take a lot of research and work, we're not going to release that video next week. We're going to give ourselves a week, probably film it over the weekend, where we can sit down and watch the series again and really lock down our ideas, and then we'll be releasing that video the following week. Next week, I think, is probably going to end up being Fine Editions, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, however, I've been Grand Moff Tony. Those were my top 5 Black Series wishlist picks for the Tartakovsky Clone Wars miniseries. You may subscribe when ready. With that in... Wow, what was that? Tentacle options.